Coming off 2 straight gold medals for U.S. hockey, we are live with episode number 30. I'm Kyle. He's Mark, as always, and we are joined by a very special guest today. None other. He's a good friend of the show, known through, a good friend of mine. Ladies and gentlemen, Christian Pagán. Christian, how are you today, my guy? What's going on?
I'm doing good. First off, thank you guys for having me on this podcast. I'm really excited. But, just like we talked about a little off the air, just trying to stay warm, and get through this month before spring comes ahead.
Yeah, it's been, kind of weird. Thought we were through it, Mark, and here we are. We're dealing with snow again and 30 and 20 degree weather. Mark, how are you, my guy, as always?
Yeah, could be warmer. I thought we were done with this snow stuff, and then all of a sudden you can't see the car in front of you with all this snow. But as far as I heard, according to a couple of our buddies, obviously we didn't even get the worst of it. So for those of you that might be getting the worst of it, I apologize, but I'm not too upset about it at the same time because I know how we get.
Yeah, so hopefully it looks like we're still trending the warm direction coming up, but old man winter's still hanging on. So Christian is joining us today. We are going to talk some baseball. It's what the show's dedicated to today. But Christian, before we get going, kind of introduce yourself to the people and just let them know, your background a little bit and, the whole 9 yards.
Of course, yeah. So I'm currently a senior at the University of Cincinnati studying communication. I do work in sports production, broadcasting is the main aspiration. Been extremely grateful to do work with several different organizations. Down here in Cincinnati, Chatterbox Sports is a local one. They have the rights to Miami University non-revenue sports, so like your baseball, softball, soccer, and swim. Do stuff with student radio here on campus, able to work on our ESPN Plus productions, or that rather also air on family of networks. See the hoodie, spent 2 seasons with the Rubber Ducks, with their production team. So just trying to do whatever I can to really get involved here, around the state. Born and raised in Cleveland, so, I'm a big Cleveland fan, but right now I'm currently in my last semester at UC.
That's awesome. And, I know we've talked off the air a little bit, Christian, about it, and, working for ESPN Plus and doing Cincinnati baseball and a couple basketball games. What kind of got you into, like, your not, I wouldn't say career, but, like, your career path, I should say? What got you into this, and why did you want to be like, I can do this, so I'm going to take the step forward and do it?
Yeah, I think ever since I was a kid, the main thing was meteorology, and I'm still fascinated by the weather. I would mimic the meteorologists on TV when I was a kid. I think when I got to about 13 or 14, I kind of, after Ohio State had some really good seasons, like that 2019 season really in particular, we had Gus Johnson on the call for what seemed like every single game. And I was like, I wonder, like, let me do some research about this, being a sports commentator. And, then COVID hit, so things kind of, died down a little bit. And I really didn't do anything until my freshman year of college, and then joining student radio, then being fortunate having that to lead to other opportunities. And then I always tell people this, as a communication major, communication's very broad, media production is very specific. I wasn't media production, but I was put on to a class that gave us hands-on experience with our productions at UC that air on ESPN and family and networks. So now I've been in that program for a couple of semesters now, and it's just been absolutely incredible.
And that's incredible. I've been listening, your cousin sent me some of your YouTube work, and it's been phenomenal. Out of this world. I've been kind of watching it, here and there, kind of get acclimated with you a little more through the YouTube. But you've been doing great, and maybe just kind of people. I know you told me a lot when we had our little phone call here when we first met, but maybe give the people that are starting out in this, with either the podcast or what you're doing with ESPN Plus and all that. What would you say, or what kind of advice would you give to those people that are trying to get into this and are trying to, like, maybe this is what I want to do moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to receive so much advice, and, only a couple years of my journey. I'd probably say the most important thing is really just to shoot your shot as well. Like, literally the worst they can say is no. And try and get as many reps as you can, because it's truly a reps thing. Whether it's at home, mimicking the commentator, or having a video game on, just record it into your phone or your microphone. Get involved, join student radio, meet new people, make connections. Honestly, like, when I got here, 4 years looked so far ahead, but now it came by so quick. And I think just the main thing is get as many reps as you can, meet as many people as you can, and just have fun with it. Be yourself. Don't try and copy someone necessarily, but really just enjoy yourself, have fun with it, and get as many reps as you can.
Yeah, and because thinking about with the Gus Johnson thing, Gus is one of my favorites. I know he's one of the favorites of Mark's when we kind of listen to him, all the crazy names he comes up with, like Marvin Harrison Jr., Maserati Marv, or just he comes out of just the woodwork with these random names. But yeah, and I just think what you said is take it back, and I know I could talk to Mark on this one, Mark, but it's just when you're finding your path, you're finding your career. It's just like just be your person, just be your own self, Mark. And I know we talk about this from time to time. It's just do you, because the people are going to find you and pick you for what you're doing, not what you're trying to mimic or trying to be someone else when you're not, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, that's all you really can do, kind of no matter what job field you're going on, especially when you're talking about communications, especially when it comes to the sports world. I mean, you got to be able to kind of just not only put yourself out there, but understand that you're going to kind of take some hits, really, no matter where you go or what you do. There's going to be some bumps in the road, and whatever the case may be, and you kind of got to be able to roll with it and understand that everything is a learning experience and everything like that as well. So, I mean, I agree wholeheartedly, and I think that's learning experience for everyone. Kind of as Christian noted, you got to be able to just shoot your shot and understand that whatever comes out of it is what's going to come out of it, and you got to keep shooting until you make one.
Amen to that. Well, we still appreciate Christian coming on. We know we're kind of on, a little time constraints. I know Christian's got a little busy schedule, so we're going to dive right into it. We're having him on. Baseball is in the air. Spring training started last week, and pretty much games, practices, all that. But folks, we know me and Mark kind of prelude to it. Enjoy it, because we don't know if there's going to be baseball in 2027, maybe a little farther with what's coming up, because we got a lot of issues to work out, Christian. I know we've kind of been deep diving into this with the money situation, players not getting paid what they want to get paid and going to be selfish. But to me, this is what sucks, because you're taking the enjoyment out of it, because the fans, they want to go see ball games, not in the summer 27, not be sitting at home every single night of the summer, because these players are greedy. And I got a bad feeling, Christian, this is going to last for a little while because of how stubborn these two sides are.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on all the points, Kyle. It's definitely very ominous for the future of baseball going forward. I know we had some issues back in 2021. That affected the free agency and, bunch of those signings. But when you look at the baseball the past couple of years, they've been trying a lot to save it. Save might be a little over-exaggerating, but they've been trying to really make a lot of changes. You saw the pitch clock, which I think it's been phenomenal. But then when that brings in a positive, you always have a negative. And then the looming lockout, the RSNs, the regional sports networks, all that. There's just so much to figure out in baseball right now. And with this CBA expiring in December, it's very ominous that we're going to probably have a lockout in the future of baseball for next season. It's totally up in the air.
Yeah, and think about that. The regional sports networks, there's maybe everybody's getting like their own network. Yankees have their own network. The Mets have their own network. We have our own network, and all the teams are doing it now, Mark. And when it comes to the money situation, these players want money, but you got these small ball teams being affected by it, like the Guardians, the Rays, I'd say the Marlins, teams like that. But it's just when you have not a lot of money to spend, and now players are being greedy. Like Bryce Harper literally told, I don't know if Christian saw this, I'm sure he did, but he told the commissioner to go F himself pretty much when they wanted to talk about the salary cap. You got players being greedy, but now you got to worry about the trickle effect when it comes to the regional networks and all that. And it's just it's just sad that how great these players have become, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and especially like we alluded to the other week, kind of leading up to into this show, you would think that it wouldn't be the case, especially in baseball, considering how much more money and how much money they're guaranteed compared to every other sport out there. I think other than maybe, and I could be mistaken, but I think soccer is right up there with them. So it's not exactly like they're hard up for cash. Even the lowest paid guy has pretty much 100% guarantees outside of a few things here or there. Working on it. So it is very interesting, but also, I mean, that's just kind of the sporting world that we're in, right? Everybody understands that, I mean, everything, inflation, whatever you want to call it. Obviously, we're not a financial show, but inflation is going to cause, and everybody knows that every other sport is making more money, so baseball is going to come after more money as well. But it is disheartening, especially when you're talking about Christian noted. Baseball has been essentially trying to save itself from dying off once the older breed dies off, but yet then you have the players that are kind of working against you in a way when it comes to money, lockouts, and etc. Like, you kind of have to be able to basically, and with any negotiation, right, you have to be able to find a middle ground, and they're just seeming to not be willing to do that because all they're seeing is dollar signs, not the fact that you could be out of a sport soon if you don't fix some things and allow some things to happen. Like, and I understand that they want the game to grow and everything else. They've been adamant about growing the game, but then you have to be able to give up some money so the game can grow. And it's like, whoever is talking to them, talking in their ear or whatever, like, that's also on them too, whether it's agents, whether it's the PA, etc. Like, they have to be able to also speak on the fact, just like all the other sports do, like, yo, we might lose some money, but you'll gain it with endorsements. You'll gain it with whatever else because our game is growing again. And I think that's just essentially the way to go about it. And it seems like baseball is in, and now granted, I'm not the biggest baseball fan. We've talked about it already. But at the end of the day, like, you see it with every sport, and now you're seeing it with baseball, and it's even more in the news now. Like, nobody wants to find the middle ground, but that's how you ultimately get the paycheck that you're looking for as an MLB player, but you also get the game to grow, and you can find other avenues to get paid just like every other sport. So it's really disheartening.
Yeah, and when Mark talks about the middle ground, the biggest middle ground, as we kind of already alluded to, Christian, is going to be the money. And, you know, the MLB, for fans that don't really watch MLB or anything, this is the only sport without a salary cap. All the other sports have salary caps. NBA's kind of, I wouldn't say kind of like relaxed on it, but you kind of see what the other teams, what some teams do with their supermax contracts and all that. But I think when you got teams like the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Mets, signing all these players, and the Yankees, they've been choking. Like, they can sign how many players they want. They always find a way to choke somehow, some way in the playoffs, no matter who they're playing. But, like, they lost to the Blue Jays, and the year before, obviously, lost to the World Series. But, you know, the Dodgers, they just run through the NL West and the NL all the time, Christian. But I think for small market teams, you got to have a salary cap, and I would love it, or come to middle ground with the amount of signings. Let's say how do you feel the salary, if they would put in somewhat of a salary cap, how do you think that would affect it? But at the same time, do you think, you know, it would work out in a sense to have a salary cap where the Dodgers and Yankees aren't signing like every single player that comes on the market from the U.S. or Japan?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because when you look at it, I think there's two avenues you can go with, and I think both present their pros and cons. When you have a salary cap, you're going to have your teams, like you mentioned, the Yankees, the Mets, the Dodgers, who are spending all these huge, lucrative amounts of money. They're going to be upset because now they're being restricted. And, you know, at this point, if you're a small market team like we are, Guardians, Reds, Marlins, you know, then you're going to be a little more happy because it's going to be more competitive because they can't spend all this money. However, if you look at the other side, maybe a salary floor, this will force the small market teams to spend money, but the only issue, or one of the issues, is that, okay, well, if I need to spend $40 million, let's just say there's going to be a loophole in which, hypothetically, you can sign one player and it just overpay him a ton just to meet that requirement. So it's definitely hard to find that common ground. I think with either, if they do have a salary cap or a salary floor, no matter which way they go, or even not even have one at all, who knows? But I think whichever way they go, there are going to be a lot of people upset. And it's a very hard common ground to find, I think.
Yeah, and we mentioned the money in the small market. We'll get into the Guardians here in a little bit, but they made a signing yesterday, Rhys Hoskins, and he's literally getting paid like almost the league minimum, like $1.5 million, and to start, at least right now, who knows, that could change between now and, you know, opening day in late March, but he's 1.5 to start in the minors. Granted, he had an injury, so we're kind of, but when he's on, he's got a right-handed power bat, and, you know, Mark, you get, as Christian alluded to, with these owners, you have these owners that are cheap. Our owner's cheap. I'll say it. I don't care. The owner's cheap. I think at some of these, like, he clearly this offseason he signed like all pitchers. That's all they signed. Literally was pitchers, and they signed like maybe 2 outfielders. But Mark, at the small ball market, these owners, I think the salary cap will help the small ball owners, but at the same time, they got to be willing to pay to win. And I don't think our owner, at least, is willing to win. He's just trying to hold on to their money. Even when they got players, they're not even calling up due to time or service or however you say it. But it's just annoying me as fans of the team and owners, Mark, that I don't even know if the salary cap would work for smaller teams.
Yeah, I would agree. I actually kind of do enjoy the idea that Christian brought up of the salary floor. I've always kind of said that I feel, especially in baseball now, while a salary cap would be hard just because of how the league has always been structured, I think a floor would at least, bare minimum, help for some of these small market teams like a Guardians who, I mean, granted, we're always up there, right? We're always in the upper middle tier of these teams where we have always a chance to make a run, right? But you never see him get over the hump outside of that one year where we got our hearts broken, obviously. But even that was a surprise to everyone. And it's always the same argument, right? It's always we're not spending the money. Our owner is cheap. He doesn't want to shell it out, right? So at the end of the day, I do think while it would be a very hard common ground to reach, it does essentially help those. I'll call it help because it helps as a fan and as a team standpoint. It would help those smaller market teams be a lot more competitive because they have no choice. Now, there is the loophole around it where I think Christian alluded to as well, where then they're just going to start overpaying the players that they have, and that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go fight for a heavy hitter, so to speak. While that's what you would want, and that's what you would hope that that salary floor would be doing, realizing, okay, if I had to spend X amount of money, I might as well try to spend it on somebody that can help us win. I mean, I don't know what it would necessarily do, but I do think that a big issue is kind of your lowest level teams and your highest level teams. And unfortunately, we in Ohio, whether you look at the Reds or the Guardians, you're looking at two small market teams that don't necessarily want to shell the money out anymore, and it becomes a problem. I just don't know, because ultimately you're dealing with business people, right? You're dealing with multimillionaires, billionaires sometimes, that, I mean, they made their living on figuring out how to not spend their money and to make more of it. So they're going to find a loophole one way or another to keep hold on to whatever that is. And you're just going to see, probably in a way, they're going to spend that, whatever that floor is, they're going to sit right at that floor and they're not going to really go over it. It's not going to be a super incentivized thing on doing it. But at the end of the day, I do think something has to be done, at least bare minimum for the small market teams, because those teams have to be competitive in order for the league to grow as well, based off the fact that, like, you see it in, I'll say the NFL more than anything, right? Your small market teams, your bad teams, they always have the opportunity to be good based off of the picks. That's not really the case in the MLB as much, and in the NBA as much. Now we're on the MLB, so I'm going to stay on the MLB, but something does have to be done to where there can be more parity in the league, and it's not just the same 5-6 teams every single year that are kind of just running the show because they have all the money.
Yeah, and now this will be a little different, as I know I'm sure some of your baseball fans have heard. The PA has a new interim PA guy or PA leader because of of a situation that happened with the original guy that made him resign. So, Christian, I'll throw it back to you. This, I don't know if it will kind of change things, but now you got someone that maybe we don't know how extensive he's been in the prior negotiations, but now you got a new guy in. I don't think it's going to play a factor in how this lockout goes, because I think, I'm going to be honest, it's going to happen. It's just when it obviously it's going to happen. So I'm not even holding out hope. I know it's going to happen. But with this new guy coming in, do you see maybe it could be a good thing that we have a new guy for the players negotiating, or do you think he's going to be the same way where they're going to be stubborn and maybe not move the needle? Because I saw something, I don't know how true it is, but I think it's like $2 billion the MLB has in case this goes to lockout. So that's telling me whether this goes, how long this goes, the players are fine with not playing to get their way. But with a new guy in there, do you think it's good to set an example to listen to the players, or maybe try to negotiate with the MLB to maybe come to common ground before it's too late in the summer of 27?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. To be honest, I don't really know much about the new person, but the way I look at it, it's just the timing of it. We talked about, the CBA expires in December, and you had the former PA resigned due to issues that occurred in the past, and now in the most crucial time of the sport that we've had in recent time to get a new CBA, the MLB PA guy resigns. Talk about that timing now. You have to bring in a new guy. What will his philosophy be? And I think it kind of adds on to your question. Is he going to be the one that's like, hey, players, owners, let's just get this done now? Or is he going to remain how the prior person was in Tony Clark and say, hey, we believe in this. We want to push for this. We're okay having a lockout. So it's definitely very interesting to see which approach he will take. But I just look at the timing on how literally 9 months, 10 months before the CBA expires, you have a new PA because the prior one resigned. That is just awful timing.
It's it's awful time. Literally a year before, almost a year before this is about to go down. It's just weird, Mark. And if you're the players, Mark, I know we played sports, and obviously, I wouldn't say, not knowing about being in like a PA, but still, like you play sports, and now you're trying to negotiate things, especially when we talk about the NIL coming up in the future. But when it's something like this, you have a new leader trying to get in there. Do you think, how does that affect maybe the mindset? Like, are you in it? Do you think, you can trust this guy? Like, I think there's going to be some big steps this guy's going to have to fill to try to get the players' way, or at least come to middle ground for the players and MLB come 27.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that portion of things. I do think your new guy for the MLB really got the shit end of the stick there. I mean, at the end of the day, you're kind of running in and obviously not knowing a whole lot about the situation. It does seem kind of coincidental that he resigns a year before. Maybe that's some writing on the wall on what this CBA has to come as well. Because why would you resign kind of knowing that you have been the way you are, you've been standing so firm on what the players want, why all of a sudden resign now? So I don't wonder if that kind of has some writing on the wall on what we're looking at for the CBA, whether it be not only a lockout, but maybe there's somebody on that owner's side that is really digging their feet in as well, and it's going to be a real knockdown, drag-out fight that he didn't just want to take on. Again, that's me being an outsider of the sport, just understanding that I pretty much watch the Guardians, then I'll watch the playoffs. That's kind of my outsider perspective. But as far as, the new guy goes, whenever you have a new leader, there's always going to be a feeling out period. I think he definitely has his work cut out for him, no matter what the situation is with what's currently out there. Only he knows what those feelers are. Only he knows what the negotiations look like at this point. But at the same time, you have to be able to have the players' trust as well. Otherwise, nothing's going to get done, and they'll really lock you out. Because right now, the players have the control in the MLB more than really any other sport out there. They have, all the cards.
NBA has a little bit of control too, but
yeah, they definitely do. But as far as control overall goes, they're playing with a winning hand as far as the players go, and they know it. So especially when it comes to this new guy in the PA, not only does he have to, as Christian pointed out, kind of reconcile with, hey, we're about to, none of us are about to be playing. What do you guys want to do here? I think we still need to get this done. He's going to have to toe a really jagged fence, in my personal opinion, where it's, hey, we need to get this done so that we all have jobs. But at the same time, his job is to get a deal done, not just to lock everybody out. So he's kind of in, I think, for not only a rude awakening onto what it is he really has to walk into, but he's under a time crunch too. You guys talked about it already. You basically have less than a year at this point to get this thing done. Not only get the players on your side, but get the whoever represents the owners on your side as well, or at least find a middle ground with them, have conversations with them, etc. I definitely don't envy his position, to say the least. And I think this year alone, you'll see a lot of what type of person he is and where the MLB is to go if it does continue. And I'm going to throw that out as an if, because there is an if there at this moment in time. You'll really get to see kind of what he can do with his version of things here, because he's in the most trying time in literally year one of his job. So, good luck to him. Obviously, I know the players want him to get their deal done, but it'll be very interesting to see what his communication prowess, I'll say, is able to show here in the next coming months to a year, because he's in for it.
All right, simple question for Christian. Give us prediction. How long does it go in 27? Are we doing a COVID year, or you think it's going to go a whole year? That's pretty. What do you think? We getting a COVID year?
I think maybe I'll lean towards a COVID year. Maybe some
COVID
reduced
year.
games. I think the closer you get, obviously, the more pressure they're going to have. I
Right.
do think, just in my heart, I think they will work something out as they kind of realize, like, hey, look at the situation we're in. Even if it means, reduced games like we saw during COVID, affected free agency, or at least going up into the season. But, yeah, I'd probably say kind of like a COVID year, a little bit of a shortened season, affected free agency. But if I wouldn't be surprised if it lasted the whole year.
No, I would not be surprised. I would say COVID year, but like I would not be surprised because then you got to think because net the following year. Well, you got the WBC this year. You get a year off, and then you got the Olympics in August. So then you got to think about in 28. Like, are you sending players? Are you sending minor leaguers? Like that's another big thing that's probably gonna have to be worked out if you guys don't play, or if they don't play in 27. So that's a major thing too. So this is gonna be an interesting couple months here. I think Christian. I think I'm with you. I think it's COVID, but I'm not surprised if it's going to be the whole year. The way the last one went, they barely got it finished because I think they knew what the money they were going to miss after the package or whatever they had ran out. I don't know, man. I think it's COVID, but I won't be surprised if it's the whole year at this point. Mark.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be the stick in the mud, but I also understand that we're in greedy times, especially when it comes to sports. And I
Yeah.
think I'm honestly leaning more towards a whole year. And I don't necessarily say that just because of the money either. While I do think that I would assume it would start as a full year and then they potentially find a way to figure it out. That's my hope, obviously.
Yeah.
I do see it being a full year though, based off the fact that that's the best way the players can keep their control, right? If you submit a COVID year, understand there's Olympics and other things coming up, you can still use that against them. Hey, don't you want to win the Olympics? Then give us what we want. We'll play this year, then you send us to the Olympics. Because minor leaguers aren't going to win it. There's a lot of tools that the players still have to their advantage to get that next year. And I think it makes not only the biggest statement, but then if they do lock out the whole year, you got to think whatever they want at that point is fair game. Because at the end of the day, these millionaires, these owners, this is their biggest revenue stream. That's why they got into the business. That's why a lot of these owners, especially in Cleveland, your Cincinnati's, whatever, your smaller market teams are going to push the most to get back on the field and just give up whatever the hell they got to give up to start to play because that's their big revenue stream. You get money from food, you get money from tickets, you get money from all that type of stuff, right? So when you can't do that, you can't fill your stadium up, you can't make your money. You're then losing money. And once the owners start to lose money, they're obviously going to fold out because they need their money back. That money goes into their other investments, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, while I would love, obviously, for either nothing to happen or a COVID year, I just think that the players understand nowadays more than they did probably in years prior that they have not only the control that they have, but there's so much more that they can tap into control-wise that I think their agents are more savvy on telling them, and I just see it being a full year based on the fact that they know that right now more than ever they can really grasp onto the league and really control it however which way they want to, and I see them doing that, especially with these high-end players. A lot of these guys, aren't even from here necessarily, and can go play in the DR for a year or whatever, but they're also getting endorsements from all these baseball companies, whatever, so they do a couple more commercials. They're good. And they're already paid for the year. Their shit is already guaranteed from the last however long they've played. So really only your minor leaguers and rookies would really be affected if they were going to be playing in the MLB this year. So, at the end of the day, I don't think they get as affected as what the owners do. And they have no problem locking it out for a year and doing whatever it is they want. And it's like a year vacation, a year to get stronger, a year to whatever. So I see it being a full year, unfortunately.
Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be interesting. So that's why soak it in, fans. Soak it in this year because you don't know what next year is going to hold. Right after the final Auto World Series is when we really get going with that. So it could be very, very interesting. I'm sure we'll cover it here on the show. Hey, before we go on to the Guardians, real quick, I want to give a big shout out to this beautiful library that I'm at right now, helping me because I know you all know from watching my internet's been going lagging in and out at home, so they've been gracious enough to give me a room each and every week I come to, if we're not on live or on YouTube, but to give me the grace to come in and present you guys the show every week. So huge shout out to the library. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Appreciate the space and time to do it. All right, so we're going to move on from the lockout to our hometown team, the Cleveland Guardians, as they've had as one of the small ball market teams, as they yesterday signed Reese Hoskins, first baseman who played for the Phillies and the Brewers in his career so far. Big power hitter. When he's healthy, and I know Christian can test this, he's on. When he's healthy, he could bomb it. He could get some hits. He could play first. He's got a $1.5 million deal, camp invite, so hopefully we'll see him to start the season. Jose Ramirez got a contract extension, and they signed multiple pitchers, but there's also a lot of things to be decided. The opening day roster, does Chase the Water get on there? George Valera, CJ Capers. We'll send it to you, Christian. What is your broad perspective of the Guardians, probably from last year, and now as we get set for the 2026 campaign for this year?
I think the first thing you gotta look at is how they spent really no money. The offense was an issue outside of Jose, and they did really nothing to address that need. This team hit 226 last year. They ranked last in the AL in runs scored, and I totally get it. And we talked about the small market philosophy. There's going to be times in which your rookies and the guys you call up are going to have some tough times, and we saw it last year. It comes to a point in which you can't strictly rely on those rookies to be consistent day in,
if they get called up
out.
because of service time, if they get called up, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. Imagine, like, for example, we saw earlier in the season, like a John Kensey Noel, a Will Brennan, up and down, sent down, let's call up some from AAA, up and down, sent down, call-ups. It's a constant cycle, and I get it because of the situation they're in, but really this is a glaring situation they had to fix, and they did virtually nothing to fix it.
Yeah. And a player, when you talk about the minors, Chase the Water, he literally did not play until the wild card series.
Yes.
I don't know, because what's the point of bringing him up? I don't get it. Okay, he got some pressure, at bats, which is good, but what's the point of bringing him up? You should have brought him up at least, August, get him some at bats, and maybe he would have produced a little more in the playoffs, Mark. But when you just look at this team, you don't want to you're playing the service time, or, we don't want to start the clock, as most of them say, but when you're not calling guys up, it's just dumbfounding. You see all these other teams like, the Reds, they're starting to come in the front. Baltimore's starting to come in the front. Teams like that, Tampa, look at Toronto. They started with the Guerreros, the Biggios, the Bichettes, but you see these Guardians, and they're just like, Mark, we'll bring it this, they're stuck in the mud. They're hard-headed. They won't, sign anybody, or at least bring up players that are going to benefit the team.
Yeah, and I think, unfortunately, again, baseball knowledge kind of where it is. The unfortunate part with the Guardians is they do just enough winning to make it so that they have an argument as to why their philosophy works for the most part, right? Like, we're always fringe playoff team, we'll mess around, we'll win a wild card round, whatever the case may be. So then ownership and everybody has the argument, oh, well, see, look, we're in the playoffs, just give us some time, They're able to do just enough to kick the can down the road so that they have a reason to not spend their money, not to go get their guys, but to also keep their farm system in place, because that's what we've always had, right? We've always been a great farm system team, but then they come up, they play for a year once they're finally ready, and then they're up out of here, and they're winning a World Series for somebody else that's willing to pay them the top dollar that they ultimately deserve. So, unfortunately, that's kind of where I'm at with the Guardians, it's frustrating, but I'm not surprised, because they do just enough winning to continue to utilize this philosophy where, hey, we'll bring this guy up just enough so that his clock doesn't start. He looks promising. All the fans are excited about him. So they come back next year where he doesn't play again. Similar minutes. Maybe he'll get a couple more games where he's right on the fringe of that clock. And it's just a replay of everything else until they finally decide, okay, now he can start his clock, and he's out of here after a year anyways. So I'm not surprised. It is extremely frustrating and annoying, I think, for us fans, because you know what you have down there, you know what you have on this team, whether it be farm system, etc. But you also understand that this is kind of where we're at. And I think we're relying too much on the fact that we've been a pitching factory of sorts as well. To Christian's point, our offense was abysmal last year, and then all you have is, hey, we kept Jose, right? We spent our money, we kept Jose. Shouldn't you guys be happy? That's kind of what they're hanging their hat on. We're hanging our hat on, hey, we're gonna have great pitching again this year. Great pitching only gets you so far. So I mean, it'll be interesting to see. Unfortunately, I don't expect much more than what we've always had, which is we're gonna be great. We're gonna have our lulls in the season where we're getting shut out 3-0, 4-0 for like a month's time, and we're just all frustrated. We're like, what the hell? What are we going to do? They call some guy up. He's going to be good for a while. He'll inject just enough for the fans to get back on board and be happy, and then we're right back to the same space. And unfortunately, I think we're stuck in the cycle of doom in that situation.
Yeah, and Christian, I'll throw it back to you. We talk about Mark, with the minor leaguers. We've been called the pitching factory. We've had the likes of Corey Kluber. We had the likes of, right now it looks like Gavin Williams, who's coming into form, Bybee, this Messick, Cantil. Like, these got guys, but when you come back from a 15-game deficit in the division, which nobody expected, I don't think even us fans, I didn't even expect. I thought we were long gone. But it's just like you got in the playoffs twice. Good for you. You made the playoffs. You almost made the World Series again. Fell short to the Yankees, but that's gonna. When Mark talk about philosophy, guards ball. At some point, that's gonna run out, and you're not gonna make the playoffs because you're not competing in the offseason to get guys. Now, granted, the Reese Hoskins signing, I love it. I think if it works out, it's gonna be a big signing. Jose, we kept him. He just wants to be here, which is great. I wish more athletes would be like that, especially here. But I just think at some point, guard ball is going to run out, Christian, and they're going to have to look in the mirror and either it's going. Now, granted, I love what Volt's doing. I wasn't a big fan, but I'm starting, come about, as I'll be honest, when we first signed him. But eventually, guard ball is going to run out, and they're going to have to do something to play big ball with the big boys, especially after this lockout.
Yeah, and the main thing you touched on was a 15.5 game deficit in the division that the Guardians, came back. They won on the last day. That is what it took to make the playoffs for the Guardians, was a 15.5 game division deficit. That it's skill, but also a lot of things went in favor in Cleveland's way, and that's not going to happen every single time. It comes to a point in which you have to make moves. You can't just rely on these young prospects because they're going to have their ups and downs like we talked about it. I mean, Tyler Freeman, it didn't work out here. He's doing decent in Colorado. Ernie Clement didn't work out here. Look what he did with Toronto. So it comes to a time in which you're going to have to change your philosophy. And kind of like Mark said, it's enough. It's just enough to keep, the motto the same. It's literally just enough. But there's a time, and how the game is now, especially with all the power hitting teams there are and sluggers. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have to adjust because you're going to get left behind, and who knows what will happen and how the game will look in 5 years. And like Mark said, pitching will only take you so far. You have to score runs.
Yeah.
So to point out kind of what both you guys said, just to interject real quick, you would think while we're on the subject, coming back from that 15.5 games would naturally force you to want to spend more money, right? Like, your team just overcame something insane. Like, obviously, Kyle, like, we talk in our group chat with our buddy Sean all the time. Like, every day we were talking about, holy shit, the Guardians won again. Holy shit, we're about to do this. Holy crap, like, this is insane. How does that not make you want to spend more money as opposed to, we did the 15.5 games. We can keep everything the same. How, like, as a sports anything, even any remote, the groundskeeper probably wanted to spend more money. And there was no money spent. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. And unfortunately, like, that's just what we're stuck with here. I didn't mean to interrupt, Kyle, but I had to, like, it's just insane to me. And you would think, especially for you two, who are even more into baseball, like, you would think that would inject something into ownership, into general managing. Like, okay, let's go and get us over the hump. We did this as what we have now with a bunch of young guys. All we need is a few more veterans, and we're right there. it, I mean, to your point, Kyle, like, I mean, why do you feel, other than us just being kind of on that cusp, why would you think or feel that it basically made the opposite than what it should have, and affects as far as the front office go?
No, I agree. And now in all of this, we forgot there's going to be new ownership at some point. Either I think it's next year. Christian, reminding it's next year we start the new ownership at Blitzer, right? The owner and the Devils. I believe. I think it's next year. Well, who knows? It'll be next year now with the lockout. But so maybe that's going to change. I don't know because we still got all these GM like Antonetti's in there, who Moneyball and all these guys. So I think maybe it's a fresh start. We signed a Jose. Maybe that's maybe it's what the minority guy wanted for now, the owner. But Christian, at the same time, we see this. We think maybe the new ownership's going to do something once he officially takes over the team. But I don't know whose deal it was. The only signed Hoskins, 1.5 million. But you still got these young guys, the water, Valera, Kafis still coming up. What do we do here? Do you think maybe they trade one of these guys to get a bigger piece with the new owner when he comes in? Say yes, go for it, or do they keep him? Just maybe start the clock. At some point, you have to start the clock, Christian. It's either going to be now or it's going to be after the lockout. One or two. It's going to be one or the other, and it better happen, or you're going to waste a lot of these guys, and it's just going to be a crapshoot moving forward.
Yeah, I honestly think it's probably going to be another logjam. You have so much talent. Don't get me wrong, the players are really talented.
Right.
But you can only do so much when you call up 4 or 5 infielders. And, I think a good example is probably C.J. Kafis. I think, if I'm not mistaken, my first year I had him when I was with the Rubber Ducks. And I'm pretty sure he played catcher. And then we already have the catcher in Bo Naylor. Oh, first base, we got, it was Santana or Manzardo. Let's put him to right field, okay? Just to give him some playing time, let's move him to right field. And so now you got this rookie who's making likely his MLB debut if he hasn't been called up before. And with all the pressures of that, here's a new position for you. You're going to play right field because that's our opening. And now you're forcing these players to play out of position at times because there's already a logjam. Like, you have Arias at shortstop. All right, let's move Rocchio to second base. You can only do so much. It's yeah. Exactly. You got the number 1 pick from a couple drafts ago, projected second baseman. What are you going to do there?
Yeah, and we got Bazana, and now it's be interesting with Kafis now because where's he going to play if Hoskins comes up, or what's going to happen to Manzardo? Are they going to flip flop back in DH because Kafis is he could be the right fielder, and now it's always a logjam. It's either just the middle infield or the outfielder or pitchers. Those are three positions that are always logjam. To Christian's point, catcher. I think we need. I'll be honest. We need a catcher. I don't think our catcher's down below already. Christian might know a little more than that, but I don't think they're ready. I think we need to go find somebody. Bo's hit and miss. Austin Hedges, he's good for maybe 50, 60 appearances a year, but at bat. But at the same time, you got these log jams, Mark, and it's just frustrating that to Christian's point, they're not getting playing time. They're not playing as much as they should, and then you play them at the minor leagues where they're just wrecking the crap out of the ball, but you can't bring them up because there's too many goddamn people already in front of them that they're not willing to either move or trade to maybe bring a guy up, especially if we're not going to make the playoffs as like a rebuilding year.
Yeah, I agree. Ultimately, you have to make a decision as a front office. At what point do we start to roll the dice a little bit? There's a pivotal moment in pretty much every sports team, especially when you talk about rebuild years, etc. Especially as a team that has always gone after prospect heavy first, and then eventually we'll be good. All of our prospects will be on good deals, and that's when we'll hit the big one, right? So when you play that game, you have to be willing to play it all the way through. If these guys are going to wreck things in the minor leagues, you have to give them a chance, especially when, as Christian and as you, Kyle, pointed out, our offense was awful last year. So why not at least give the kids a chance? And if we're going to struggle, it's no worse than the guys that we have right now anyway. If we're batting fucking 200, what's the difference between batting 200 with a guy that is super young but has shown promise once he gets his feet wet and gets himself settled? What's the difference between that and a guy that has shown time and time again he just can't get it done anymore? So I mean, at the end of the day, I think as a Cleveland philosophy and as we call it, guards ball comes to fruition, you have to be able to ride the wave all the way through and not stop once you've kind of hit that certain point where you're like, we're on the verge of the playoffs or we're barely in the playoffs. That's good enough. You have to be able to ride the wave with some of these guys all the way through because you've already given up so much to have these guys around, whether it be the trades for those picks, the trades for those prospects that the other teams were willing to win now, and you've already gotten rid of probably high-name guys that had we kept and just paid them a little bit, we would have won a World Series already by now. I mean, you're putting so much stock into these guys that you're giving the fan base this, like these nuggets, these crumbs, like, hey, we're going to be good in 5-10 years. Well, once that 5-10 years comes up, you got to be willing to ride with the fact that, hey, we gave you guys this opportunity or this knowledge that, hey, this is supposed to be our time. Okay, so ride with it. Let it see if this is our time. And then if we're just as bad with them as we were when they were not playing, then we at least have our answer, and there's not these what ifs around your team constantly, every single couple of every 5 games, 10 games, so to speak, where it's like, okay, we're terrible. Why not bring this guy up and give him a chance? Now we don't have to live with that what if anymore.
There's a lot of roster construction. I don't know how they do it. We forgot Christian Angel Martinez. He's still there. He's like the utility guy. He can play infield, outfield. So he's still like compared to like K-Fis and guys like that. And then you got the pitching rotation. We signed a guy, Elliot, in the reliever that after what happened with Clase and Ortiz, we won't have time to get into it today, but you got a lot of guys, and this rotation. I mean, it's probably going to be Gavin Williams, Bybee, probably Cantillo, Allen. I don't see it, and Messick. There's probably no other guys that will be starting at least to start the season. So it's just something's got to change, Christian. And I don't know, there's a lot of rosters because now you sign, like we go back to Rhys Hoskins. You sign a guy now. At some point, he's going to come up here. So who are you booting? Who are you good booting? Are you booting K-Fis back down? Like, now you're with this. That's why, I like it, but at some point, don't make sense if you're not riding with K-Fis to play right field, which he can play right field at some point. But at the same time, as you alluded to and Mark alluded to, you take him out of position, and here we go. He's either going to cost you a game or two. We saw it last year. A couple times they got cost a game because of play out of position, but I don't know. It's weird. Sometimes I question their moves.
Yeah, I mean, it's two things, like you talked about, playing them out of position sometimes, and it's the lack of playing time / consistency that they receive. I'll say it again. If you're a young player and you're asked to be playing out of position and not receive consistent playing time, it is going to be very difficult to find a rhythm and to really keep your mojo up, I can say. I think even now, because we saw DeLauder play in center when he was called up against the Tigers, and now there's reports that they're going to try and shift Stephen Kwan to center field. So now that opens up left field, maybe Valera, and then right field still open possibly, and then talk about the log jam too. So something has to change. It really does. And I think to go back to what Mark was saying about the momentum that they had, and you would think they would make a signing after last year. I look at 2024 as well. When they made the ALCS, you had this opportunity. Okay, we just took the Yankees to 5 games that are led by Juan Soto and Aaron Judge. Why not make a signing here? What did we do after 2016 when we lost? We went out and signed Encarnacion to a $60 million deal. We went and got Jay Bruce before the trade deadline. Mm-hmm. That was riding the momentum. It didn't work out, but at least they tried. 2024, make the CS. Okay, nothing. 2025, 15.5 game comeback. Nothing. They need to ride this momentum, and they're not doing it like they did back in the mid-2010s.
So it'll be interesting to see. Let's before we get into our playoff preview, let's give a predict record for the Guardians. Christian, what do you think?
If I had to go on a record, I'd probably say 85 wins.
85. That's
mid-80s.
Sneaks you in, possibly wild card, or depends how our division goes. I like that.
Yeah, I'd go mid-80s because, both of you guys said, they always find a way to win. It's pretty remarkable how they find a way to win. But I just think, this year some things aren't going to go their way. Last year it was a 15.5 game comeback. This year I don't think some things will go their way, but I still think they can be competitive and decent. I'd say.
Mark.
Yeah, I would probably be around there. I'd say 80 games is probably a good mark. I wouldn't be surprised if it was like the mid 70s as well. Kind of based off of Christian's point, right? You can only have so many things go so right for you for so long. Like, ultimately, you're not going to be that lucky forever. And as far as everything else goes, like, what happens when some of these prospects don't want to play here because they're sick and tired of playing out of position, etc., and they decide they don't want to come up, or they're willing to do whatever, or whatever the case may be. Ultimately, Christian talked about it as well, mojo, right? We're constantly giving these guys bad mojo. I just don't know that we're going to be much better than what we've been. Probably mid 70s to low 80s, I would say, because for whatever reason, the one consistent thing in Cleveland is the baseball team. For whatever reason, they always find a way to sneak in. I probably wouldn't be surprised if we see a wild card series that we peter out from and probably make some huge mistakes and lose. But I feel like that's where we're at. We're pretty much perennially that team, outside of a couple of higher blips on the radar. And I know that we're also in a division where those other teams really don't spend the money either. So we kind of luck out in that situation where we're not in a division with a bunch of big spenders, and we can be competitive there. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's where we end up.
Yeah, it's be interesting. I like it. I like 80s down division. It's like the AFC North of football. It's not really, sometimes cannot be that competitive. I think we'll finish either one or two. I think it's gonna be us or the Tigers. I don't see the Tigers not making the playoffs. So I'll go about like 83, 85 wins and sneak in maybe. So with that being said, I know we're kind of running low on time here. Christian, we kind of could discuss this a little bit. Give me some of your playoff teams for both sides for this coming season. Who gets in, and give me your World Series.
Gotcha. Can I do division winners? Is that okay?
Yeah,
Is that cool?
let's do it. That's
right.
what I got written down too. So go ahead.
Perfect. AL East, maybe a surprise to some, maybe not to many. I'm going to go Red Sox. It's a very competitive division with the Blue Jays and Yankees. The Red Sox went all in free agency. They really acquired a couple of good pitchers and a few key veterans as well. They're led by a winning manager in Alex Cora. I think this year will be the Red Sox. In the AL Central, I'm going to go Detroit. Kind of the same thing. You know, they went out. We got pitching in Verlander and Framber Valdez alongside Skubal, who is the best pitcher in baseball right now. Their offense is a little concerning, right? Just like ours. But I think because of how, I can say, weak the division is, I think they can get away with that and sneak in. I don't say sneak in, but take the division. Out in the West, I'm going to go Mariners. I mean, what a year they had last season. If they can stay healthy, especially their rotation, I think they're one of the best teams in the AL. I think they can get the edge over the Astros, and they have a sour taste in their mouth after what happened last season, losing in Game 7 in the CS. Going to the NL side, NL East, this one hurts to say, but it might be the year of the Mets. I really think it might be the Mets. They went all in as well. They lost a lot of pieces. They added a ton of pieces. Last year, injuries, some things didn't go their way. I think maybe this season, things just fall into place for the Mets. I'm not saying they're going to go far, but I do think the Mets will probably, in my eyes, take the NL East. NL Central, another weak division. I think I got the Cubs here. The Brewers lost quite a few pieces, especially trading one of their pitchers. I think Johnny Peralta, if I said it right. To the Mets. Freddie Peralta.
Yeah.
Freddie Peralta, not
Johnny Peralta, for all you non-baseball fans, played for the Guardians when we were kids, but continue.
That's what it was. Yes, Freddie Peralta.
Yes.
They did lose Kyle Tucker. They do bring in Alex Bregman, who's not going to replicate what Kyle Tucker was able to do, but you still kind of fill that void. I'm going to take the Cubs in the Central. NL West, Dodgers. It's unfair, but there's not really much more else to say about the NL West.
All right. Yeah, I like Mark. Let's do quick with you, and then I'll do it. Kind of wrap it up after that.
Yeah, of course. Obviously I'm gonna go with what I'm gonna say is pretty much a shoe-in. No matter what you do, the Dodgers are gonna win their division, and they probably go far. I mean, how much money do you really? Money talks and bullshit walks, right? The Dodgers definitely got money, and they spend it like no tomorrow. Basically, the complete flip end of what we have going on here. I wouldn't be surprised if we see them in another World Series, just based off the fact that they're pretty much build a super team every other year. with the amount of money that they have. I also, I know obviously I don't follow baseball as much as some, but I did notice that the Red Sox, to Christian's point, did do a lot this offseason, and I do like them just because I also know that the Yankees have this weird up and down thing where if they go really far one year or do really well one year, they're bound to kind of fall and start to falter the next. So I would venture to guess that it's kind of the Red Sox year. They kind of flip flop pretty often. So I could see that being the case there, just as far as how good they did in the offseason. But I don't think the Yankees are too far off. That's going to be a pretty competitive 1-2 situation there. I'm gonna kind of keep it short and sweet, just based off the fact that I don't watch it as much. I know Kyle, you touched on just giving World Series picks. I will kind of just do a World Series winner. I expect the Dodgers to win. I'm gonna let you guys kind of go into more specifics as opposed to what I do. I think until proven otherwise, when you can kind of just pick money off your money tree in the backyard and throw it at whoever you need to get some wins, you're going to win ultimately. And I just don't see anybody really beating the Dodgers except for the Dodgers. Ultimately, they're going to be their own worst enemy. And until proven otherwise, I think they're the only ones that can beat them is themselves. So give me the Dodgers to win the World Series unless proven otherwise. And however they end up getting that money, let me hold a few dollars because it's pretty insane the way they just pull it out from wherever they pull it out from. And the next guy gets paid an assload of money, gets a bunch of new house, new cars, whatever he wants, and breaks the bank. So I think the Dodgers win it until proven otherwise.
Yeah, we'll get to Christian really quick because I know we're running out of time. But I'm gonna go kind of the same thing as I had as Christian almost. I like the Mets. I think they're gonna sneak in. I think with the signing of Bichette and what they've been doing. I don't know if they'll go far because the New York teams tend to kind of choke when we get to the pressure situations. But I think they'll win the division.
New York ball, baby.
New York ball. I like the Cubs. I just out of that division, I don't see Milwaukee making strides. I think Milwaukee does get into the wild card. Obviously, the Dodgers are going to win the West. I do see Philly making the wild card. I just think out between them and Atlanta, I don't see Atlanta sniffing the playoffs again this year. I don't think they've done much to improve. I'm going to go with this because this is a team that always gets there but can't make it past like the second round. I'm going to go Padres. I think they'll sneak in, but I think they'll end up with maybe the Dodgers and then they'll just lose first round again or whatever. But and then the AL side, this was tough. I think we're going to see all three AL teams again. I'm going to give the edge to New York winning the division. That's what they do. They'll win the division somehow, some way. So I'll give it to them. I think Boston and Toronto do make the wild card some way. It's just how weak the AL is. I don't think Houston's done enough to make the playoffs, so I'm going Seattle in the West. I think Seattle's going to – and then the third and division for the Central and the third wild cards would be Detroit and Cleveland. Obviously, Minnesota's dealing with pitching injuries right now. They just lost their top two starters that are hurt. White Sox, I think they're another year or two away, so I think it's going to be the Royals. They're hit and miss. I think they start hot, but then they start running out of steam toward midsummer and beyond.
Pretty much every year.
I think either Detroit or Cleveland's going to go in the Central and make that third wild card. World Series, I'm going to go Dodgers. Oh, which is hard. I think I had New York, but you know what? I'm going to go Seattle. I'm going to make a wild card pick here. I'm going Seattle. Dodgers over Seattle. But Christian, I know we didn't get your pick. Who are you taking in the World Series?
I got the same thing, Dodgers over the Mariners. I think the key thing is the Dodgers, obviously are the Dodgers, like Mark said, they can only beat themselves. But the Mariners, they have a bad taste in their mouth because of what happened this past season, losing in 7 in the CS. They do basically keep a good majority of the roster. They had Brendan Donovan, who I think was an underrated acquiring. They lose Eugenio Suarez, but they really keep that core intact. And I think that's going to fuel them to go on and beyond into the World Series.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating baseball season as we hope you enjoy. Well, I know me and Mark will kind of talk about it here and there along with all the other things that are going on. But, Christian, we thank you for joining us. I know you got to get out of here because I know you got a schedule to keep. But we appreciate you taking an hour out of your time. It's a blessing. It means a lot to us for you to come on. And we're going to have you back on maybe for the postseason if your schedule allows. And definitely we'll probably have you on for the lockout when we get going with that because there's a lot to talk about there. So we appreciate you. Yeah, lockout time. But any last words, Christian, before we get out of here?
Go Guards. I just want to say thank you guys for having me on. It was really a pleasure to be on here, talk some baseball before the season starts. So once again, to you, Mark and Kyle, thank you for having me on.
Mark?
Yeah, I mean, it was an honor to have someone on. Obviously, we needed somebody that had a lot more baseball knowledge than myself to preview the season. I'm good with home runs and dollar hot dogs. That's about where I go.
There we
It's
go.
definitely go Guards regardless. We're going to be brushing up on baseball, as Kyle said, as it continues, because it's only going to get more and more interesting as the year goes on. Christian, it was a pleasure to meet you. It was also a pleasure to hear your takes, especially with somebody as credentialed as yourself, especially as young as you are. We are going to say me and Kyle are rooting for you in whatever endeavors. We hope your senior year goes great. Obviously, we look to have you on as that year progresses, and I'm sure we'll hear some crazy stories and some crazy internship things as the days progress. But we're rooting for you. We're praying for you, and it was a pleasure to meet you and have you on, because you're one heck of a guy, all things considered.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Second, shout out $2 free games Fridays and Saturdays at the Progressive
yeah.
Field.
Yes, sir.
That's what's up. That's what's up. All right, we gotta get out of here. We have scheduled to keep. Christian, thank you guys. 30 episodes in the books. We'll see you next week. We're back with more. Probably scouting combine. I know Mark's looking forward to that scouting combine. We'll wrap up the Olympics and probably talk about the new Browns DC, which I know we have a lot.
USA.
Big gold medal winners. All right, we're out of here. We'll talk more next week. We love you. Goodbye.